I'm going to vent about my weeds. I'm really sick and tired of weeds this year, so I've got a few to show you. This is the wood sorrel or oxalis. It has little yellow flowers, and those little tiny buttons there are now full of the seeds. So we've got to get rid of these, get them out of the garden and out of the planters. And here's prostrate spurge or spotted spurge. This one is also a pain. It grows so fast overnight. You have to get rid of it too, and it hides in the planters. And my most hated one is the wild violet. It's so pretty in the spring, tiny and dainty, but this thing becomes a monster the rest of the year. Those little flower or seed shapes there at the bottom, they open up and just scatter seeds all over the place. And to me, this is one of the hardest ones to get rid of. It can take over the flower bed. It's so beautiful in the spring, pretty flowers, but those little seeds just pop and spread, and it is ridiculous how fast they can get across your garden. Now we're going to try weeding in Hypertufa planters. I have some planters that have some weeds in them, and I'm just going to show you how I get those little weeds out. This, of course, is that wood sorrel I talked about. If you can reach your fingers in there and kind of pinch real hard, you can get the whole root. That's, of course, the best way to get it. If you don't get the whole root, just try to reach back in there and get it as best you can, because of course you want to get the whole thing to keep it from just growing back even stronger. Now with the hens and chicks and succulents, they're kind of forgiving. You can bend them around so that you can really get easily to those small weeds that are down there inside. So if you tend to this maybe once a week, you can keep them fairly weed free. Now, of course, sometimes I neglect mine and the weeds get worse, but if you kind of keep on it, especially run out there after a rain and try to get to a few of them, that really works the best. Now this particular planter has a lot of the prostrate spurge in it, or the spotted spurge. It almost hides from you. You can't see it in among that green of the hens and chicks. And so you just have to kind of dive in sometime when you got a chance. Now I chose a sunny morning, and there's really a lot of shadow cast here. So hopefully you can still see to get a good idea of what I have to do. Now some people may prefer to use gloves. I'm typically there with the gardener's fingernails, because I like to just dig in with my fingers in this type of a job because I can feel it better. And I have a lot of luck with my needle nose pliers that I weed my Hypertufa bins with. If you have a pair of those, try it. You'll see what I mean. Mine are old ones that I got at a garage sale, and I may or may not have picked some out of my husband's tools in the garage, but he probably won't watch this video anyway, so he'll never know the difference. But anyway, you can usually reach these weed root and stem real easily with this needle nose plier. Kind of makes it easy to wedge around when you have difficulty with your fingers. Now if you have any kind of difficulty at all with them slipping, you can always take just a dot of silicone and put that on the tips of the needle, and that gives you more of a gripping surface. Now a lot of times in my tufa pots like these, I have tiny gravel or the crushed granite, the turkey grit, and sometimes you get the piece of turkey grit inside those pinchers instead of the stem of the weed that you're going for. But if you keep at it, you'll eventually get a piece of the weed stem and can easily pull it out. And again, I can't stress the necessity of doing this most opportunely after a rainstorm. Now, I can usually spend, I don't know, perhaps 10 or 15 minutes in one that's got a lot of weeds like this one, and you can get most all of them out. Just be sure to have the needle nose pliers in your garden apron so that you'll have those handy if you can't reach it with your fingertips. And you can see in a lot of this, I hope it's fairly clear in this sunlight, that I'm getting the long root out. So I feel pretty good. And be sure and get this spurge before it blooms and goes to seed, because you'll be in big trouble if you let it bloom and it goes to seed. Now in this particular case, I tried to move the rock so I could get to some of the ones I was trying for, but it's kind of buried fairly deep into that soil, so I couldn't move the rock. But it still works. Now I most of the time like to bring a chair over to a pot. Most of my pots are up on a pedestal, a tree stump, we're getting rid of those, so that they're more waist level so that you can get to them easily. If it's a portable Hypertufa, it's kind of nice to carry it over to the bench if it's that easy for you to carry. Some of mine are so big that I can't easily transport them, so I do need to just, bring a bench, a chair, or something and sit right next to them in the garden. Now I'm shortly going to be going on vacation, as I said in the post that goes with this video for YouTube, and I am hoping that I don't come home to a gargantuan amount of weeds. I'm not going to have anybody weed for me or anything like that. It's just me that works in the garden, but my son will take care of watering and everything while I'm gone. But you can see I pulled the camera up and I'm kind of panning around, but you can see how well the weeds came out. I think it looks pretty good, and I'm really pleased with this one. And like I said, those needle nose pliers are your best friend in the garden. In the Hypertufa troughs, we usually have some small weeds like these are growing in. And you just have to go in there and individually pull them. I don't know if these are dragged in by birds, because they always seem to be in a cluster. And let me get these pulled and I'll show you in a second. Almost a crevice that's created down there. Okay, can you see this? There's like a crevice there, like a varmint has dug a hole. And there's always a cluster of grasses growing out of it. Now these are just the dead flowers that I can remove. And then again, we've got kind of some bigger small weeds. And if you can gather them all in a cluster. Oops, didn't get the end of that one. He'll grow back for sure. Now that one, I got the whole thing of him. Okay, now farther back in this same trough, of course, I've got the spent flower stems, and those are probably shedding some seeds. But here's a tiny little weed, looks like some sorrel. If you get a good grasp of that, you'll get root and all. And then of course I'll just have to clean up this. I'm going to have to get my scissors to do a real good job on that. But if you look around, you can see that this one's doing pretty well. He's mostly filled in. Got that one. I need to trim off some of his outer petals. Oop, there's another little. If you look in real close right here, another one of those down in there. So basically that'll keep this particular tufa clean. This particular pot is one of the cube ones that I have here. And you can see it isn't weedy or anything, just a little bit sparse. The sedum is growing real well, and I've just got to cut the little dead flowers off, and that'll be all trimmed up nice and neat for the rest of the summer. That one looks really good. Is purslane, and this is really getting bad this time of year. It's a little fleshy thing. A lot of people use it for, I don't know, medicinal purposes, but this is really bad in the garden. When you pull it, you have to get every piece of it, because every piece you drop will grow into another weed. So just be sure and get that, because it grows very, very fast. Let me show you another piece of it. This is the purslane that has grown over a couple days. You can see how big it gets. And I probably dropped a piece when I've pulled some, and this has just gone insane. So I have to pull it again and hope that I can get every tiny bit of it. One dropped leaf will grow a new one. Same for this little guy. I got him. And then this one. Okay, I broke his stem off. He may just grow back. And then moving on to prostate spurge. This is the little one that'll grow into a giant circle. So this one is the same way. You have to get around there and pull it. Get it all out. Here's another little piece of it. Oh, I'm losing him. See, he's coming off in pieces. And he has that milky sap that can really get into your eyes. So don't rub your eyes after you pull this one. And if you look down through the edges here, see there's a new tiny little prostate spurge that's coming out. Prostrate spurge. We have to try and keep those out. Another one that I have a lot of trouble with is nutsedge. It looks like a little grass. It just comes up almost like a little corn stalk. You can see it. And you have to pull it again. Get it all the way up. Because it's called nutsedge because these little, I don't know, nuts on the end will make new plants if you don't pull the whole thing. So you get rid of him. And I hope you've enjoyed our time in the garden today. And please like, share, and subscribe. That's the best thing that you can do for me. Thanks a lot.